Hello, and welcome to another edition of the NRS Insights Podcast. And today, well, first of all, I'm John Lofstock. Before I jump right into it, today I'm happy to be joined by Jayson Council, who is the head of culture for the Gersh agency in New York City and the founder of his own agency, Adjaycent Consulting. And Jayson is a frequent speaker. He's a columnist and an advocate for building a smarter culture in today's workforce, both in retail and throughout corporate America. Jayson spoke for our group a couple of years ago at the Young Executives Organization Group up in New England. It was a great conference and a great message, and frequent speaker at numerous conferences. So we're happy to have Jayson today. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm fantastic. Thanks for having me. Honored.
Good, good. Well, what caught my eye was I saw a on LinkedIn a little snippet about an upcoming speaking gig you have, and it cut right to the heart of the matter. In building culture in your organization and in convenience stores and in retail, culture is the holy grail. People always say they're going to do culture. They always say they're going to invest in culture. They always think they have a great culture. But
Mhm.
the thing that amazes me, Jay, is the disconnect between the people who want it and then the people that work at the company. Again, at retail, you
Sure,
go into a store, it doesn't match what people say at the
sure.
corporate office. So I wanted to get your insight and throw a million questions at you, but we'll start with, you know, what do people get right? What do people get wrong? What are the salient points of doing this right?
Right. Um, Again, super excited to be here and just always love being in your presence and love the work that you do. So, John, what I'll start with is I feel like where people get it wrong is the terminology, right? And being so locked into the word or the buzzword of it and making culture in this particular case so infinite, right? So bottom line, where culture is more of a scale.
Hmm.
Right? It's a scale of 0 to 100, right? So there's no one that has like zero culture, and there's no one who's operating at 100% efficiency. So I really think it's about defining or redefining what culture means to your company, right? To those customers and those clients that come through your doors and really curating it, right? Like a curated culture will always supersede just a standard cookie cutter buzzword culture.
Hmm. Now, with retail, the thing that makes retail great and hard is the diversity among retail. You're taking people of all ages, all sizes, all backgrounds, all religions, and throwing them in this little box, telling them to be an expert at technology, to be an expert at food service, to be an expert at customer service, to understand people at different backgrounds.
Mm.
It almost seems like an impossible task. So, how do you train a group like that?
It is difficult, right? And just we're just going to name that. It is difficult.
Hmm.
Convenience stores sit at the intersectionality of society, right?
Absolutely.
So, it's funny because I go to a gym, and the gym I go to has such a random group of people, right? All there to lift weights, but all different walks of life, right? So I always think about how do they meet people in this gym in a place where everyone feels seen, everyone feels heard. So you have to have that blend of, I think convenience stores that get it right have that commitment to culture, right? And that curated culture. Two, hiring processes. We have to work with our HR officials and our CHR officers to make sure that they understand the importance of a culture that transcends and translates from the board to the executive leadership staff to a new hire to who you serve, right? And the way you do that is you have to inform our HR about what best practices are for a future-facing workforce. A lot of times, what we have apples hiring apples. And that's why we have these disconnects. We have to work on neurodivergency and filling those HR roles so apples learn how to hire oranges. Apples learn how to hire transmissions because you can't have a storefront or a store that's hiring apples because you're not serving only apples. And if you want a bottom line, which I appreciate about your spaces, it's a bottom line business. If you really want to impact customers, if you really want to retain them and get them to come back, they have to be seen, heard, and valued, right?
Hmm.
And that starts at the top. And I think the top really needs to focus on their HR and their hiring practices, specifically.
See, that's good advice because I've been covering convenience stores, I hate to admit it, for almost 3 decades now.
Mhm.
And I've seen the curve where we'll hire any warm body. We just need people. We'll just
Right.
hire any warm body
Sure.
to a time where employers were able to have their pick of employees because there was an abundance of employees to now where the focus really is on trying to get it right because they have so much money invested in these boxes at
Right.
the fuel and the food. So in with everything you just said, what mistake, if there are just a handful or a couple of things, what are they getting wrong? Like
Mhm.
what are they not seeing that if you could just grab somebody and say,
Yeah.
you got to understand this. What is it?
Well, I'm going to get into that, but I'll start with one of the things you're getting right. One of the things you're getting right is because significant convenience stores don't look for a formal degree, right? You are now allowing at least 75% of the general workforce to be applicable for a role,
Mhm.
right? When you ask for a bachelor's degree, you are alienating 75% of the workforce. Just off top,
Mhm.
right? So one thing I think your industry gets right is you don't have that hindrance, right? I would say one of the things that's happening that you get wrong is when you're looking for people to work in the community, it's always best to have people from the community,
Mhm.
right? Like, and I don't want to oversimplify because it's like complexly simple, right? If you want to have people that understand the community, get people from the community, right? It's funny because, this may be a hot take, but a lot of times when we think about diversity, I love how you reference it because there's so many different realms of diversity, from neuro to your background to gender to preference to all these things. And a lot of times we just think about race, right? Like just thinking about the country that we live in, the society we live in, the world that we live in, we go straight to race. And as a black man, if I were in charge of HR, right? If I were looking to fill my store, and you would think, oh, because he's a black person, he's going to hire all these black people. And that's the Apple hiring Apple, right? What we need to have are people who understand we need folks that fit the team itself, right? Not individuals, but individuals who bowed into the collective, right? Because these are teams, these are shifts, these are people that you become very, very close with. Again, this is the intersection of society, right? So you got to have people that are from there. And if you don't have people that aren't from there, which is okay, you have to make sure that there's formal training in place to make sure that they understand just all these things that we're talking about on a pretty surface level today.
It's funny as you were saying that I was thinking about a bunch of chains that I know, and they invest a ton of money in profiling, like personality profile tests.
Mhm.
And you could have, I know the goal of those things. It's to find out if someone's inclined to provide great service and to
Yeah.
be, a good representation of the brand. But sometimes I think they go a little too rely too heavily on
Mhm.
the profile test and not enough on the person. And what I mean by that is there, especially in convenience stores and urban convenience stores, there could be the retiree, the ex school bus driver now who's 65 that could come in and work from 6 a.m. to just to 9 a.m. or the mom who can work after she drops her kid off at school. And so it's kind of like diversity because you're thinking differently,
Yeah.
but it also shows that you're connected with the community, like you said, that you're representing.
It's a little safer,
Mhm.
right? And the reason why I say it's safer is because it has this perceived element of data, right? But if your data doesn't tell a story, your data is no good,
Mhm.
right? And another thing about those tests, and I'm big on them, I utilize them, but I don't depend or lean on them. One of
Mhm.
the reasons is because those are a snapshot of you that day.
Yeah.
If you were to take that 6 months later or a year later, you may have varying results to that, right? So those are just a snapshot into your personality that day. Even those, even the most famed rubrics or personality tests, they will tell you that. They will tell you, take this again in 6 months, take this again in a year and see where you stick. Because a lot of these things are fluid.
I didn't, you know what? I never thought about that. You could have a fight with the wife or whatever,
Oh,
and it's going to
that's
impact what
it.
you do.
That's
Yeah.
it. That's it. If you get with me, just speaking for me personally, I'm a hub, right? So I tinker in the middle of a
Mm.
lot of those things, right? So when you have so not to say I'm a great hire, but I think if people look for more of those hubs, right? Those people who have those ability to be empathetic and know how to be an executor, right? Right? Like those things can live in the same person.
Hmm.
We just take that extra step, as much as I don't like to use a cliche, less is more, right? You want to have the right team because ultimately that team that you have working for you, that's your bottom line, that team. Because if those customers don't come back, you mentioned urban areas, rural as well, right? Like urban and rural, they're very, very much the same. They just have different backgrounds, different backdrops, same people. They're all overlooked, rural and urban, both overlooked, both marginalized, both untapped resources. There's also more rural markets than urban markets,
Hmm.
right? So we focus so much on getting one right that we don't understand the commonalities amongst both.
The urban, we're seeing a lot of the 7-Elevens and the Wawas and a lot of
Yep.
big companies moving into urban markets. So internally, I was always wondering, are they going to apply those same hiring practices that their HR department is used to hiring in suburban,
Yeah. Probably.
Philadelphia to downtown Philly? It's a
It's
different ballgame.
completely different. You're in
Mhm.
downtown Philly, that's different than Bryn Mawr,
Yeah.
right? But a big difference is in Bryn Mawr, your Wawa isn't there to serve because it's part of a food desert,
Good point.
right? We're in a lot of other in a lot in different urban areas and rural areas. It's serving because it's a food desert in that area. So I'll use Wawa for example. They get it right because of their MTO, right? And if you live somewhere that has about 5 stores in town, and Wawa is the only one that's MTO, the only one that's open past 9 p.m., right? Like you're feeding the community. And because you're feeding the community, it's a lot of accountability that you have because you're part of what could be a community reset if you lean into it that way.
Oh, 100%. And it's amazing how um, a brand like that really does connect with the community. That's kind of, I think a lot of people aspire, a lot of chains aspire to have that relationship. But if I can, I want to just take a
Sure.
step back because one of the on the employee side, we used to say that employees, the industry still has high turnover. It always probably always will.
Mhm.
uh, it was about money. They would go somewhere for a dollar more. But we started to see a shift, years ago where a $50 gift card or praising an employee in a newsletter, making them feel that they are part of the team went a long way. So we started
Mhm.
to see more smart companies doing that. Now, one of the buzzwords is equity. So you hear
Right,
equity a lot. I'm not sure everyone knows or understands what equity is. So can you,
right.
from your perspective, tell us what employees are looking for with equity?
Here's what equity should represent, right? It should represent the fair treatment of all, access to all, opportunities to all. Um, Equity should eliminate barriers. When you're getting it right, you're eliminating barriers. In order to tackle equity, you have to think about the root cause of what comes from it. And in order to focus on equity, you have to learn more about what inequity looks like.
Mhm.
So for me, one of the ways I try to approach it is I take it away from a lot of micro terms and I just make it very macro, right? Do you have representation in your hiring? right? Representation, unpack that however you like, right? Do you have representation? Do you have respect in your hiring practices, right? Representation, respect. And then lastly, repair. Is repair part of your hiring practices? Because when we think about a future-facing workforce, repair is the domino a lot of corporations ignore to really further their business, to sustain their business, and be one that's thought of as a top go-to from our Gen Z and our millennials and those to come, right? So I'm big on representation, respect, and repair. One thing I'll say that I've always found to be glaring in the convenience space and seemed like a layup to me externally was intentionality around college partnerships, right? I don't know too many universities that have a major or curriculum that prepare you for the convenience space or the convenience industry.
Mhm.
It's a very lucrative industry, right? So if we can't impact university to have curriculum around the space, we can at least have amazing programs and bridges between this convenience store and this university. Because one thing that's going to be true is you're going to have clusters of colleges, universities, and convenience stores,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
You're going to have that.
Mhm.
That's a natural collaboration. And I've never seen it. Maybe this is just, my limitations, but I've never seen it done really, really well or touted.
Not at the frontline level, like a lot, the NACS, the National
And that's what I'm
Association
talking
of
about.
Teachers.
That's
Yeah.
points of entry. I'm
Yeah.
talking straight points of
Yeah,
entry.
they will have like white collar MBA programs for
Sure.
executives that don't really affect the frontline team. And I can't even begin to tell you, and I'm not even exaggerating when I say this. I have spoken over the last 30 years to hundreds of people who use the
Sure.
exact line. I took a job out of college with Wawa, with Rutter,
Right.
with Sheets, and I'm still here after 15, 20 years. I've
Yep.
made a career out of it because it is a lucrative industry. It is,
It is.
it's a great dynamic industry. You meet wonderful, wonderful people. So, but it still gets back to Jay, the face of the brand, even the face of
Right.
7-Eleven, of Wawa, is that one guy or girl or man or woman, whoever it is, working the counter that day when you enter the store.
Yep.
That is
That's
the
the toll
brand.
stop.
It,
That's who you see when you come in, who you see when you leave. That's the
and
toll booth.
that is it. So if you have a
Yeah.
bad interaction with that person,
It's over.
it's
And it's over generationally, right?
you,
If
you
I
just
have a bad if I have a bad experience at your store, my sons don't like your store.
hmm
And that means their children won't like your store, right? Because I had a bad experience because my mom had a bad experience.
hmm
And I saw how she felt at that store, and I've never gone back, right? So I just say that to say, one thing you bring up is when you talk about how they may get it right when you think about the higher you go up the chain, right? So treetops, right? The treetops are always gonna be fed, right? Because that's your executives. Those are the folks who may not necessarily come from the communities you serve per se, right? That's your
yeah,
biggest and your brightest or your founder, your founder and
and
their
his family. Yeah,
either way, they might
one or
be
the other. Yeah.
exclusive. I don't know. It's either your biggest or brightest or the
hmm
founder's son, right? But when you think about what I was kind of getting alluding to is that those points of entry, those grassroots, right? How do we have it where that young person is at University of fill in the blank, and they're like, when I leave here, I'm going to work at BP, right? Because I see what BP is doing. I love where they're trending. I want to go work there, or I want to go work at wherever, right? Like we have to have, I think, a little bit more, you know, I feel like the convenience industry is a sneaky stock that people don't really know about, right? Like there's certain industries that just have all this fanfare. And I look at an industry like the convenience store industry, it's the crux of what we do, right? Like we all go through
hmm
that space. All of
100%.
us.
Yeah, during COVID, we saw, I mean,
Yeah,
basically the country revolved around their local convenience store.
that was it. And they become and in times like that, they become social clubs,
I
right?
am. I wrote about this. I since I left C-store decisions, but one of the things I used to write about, and I'm disappointed at local municipalities and governments. There should have been a day to honor the retail employees or
I like
the
that.
workers that went to work every day in a pandemic where the news was saying you're going to die if you don't do this, you're going
Yeah,
to get killed. These people showed up for work every day and they served food. They made everyone feel comfortable and safe. You feel safer when the light's on. When all the lights are off, it gets
absolutely.
scary.
Were they categorized as first responders during COVID?
No, just essential workers.
Got it.
But
That's
essential
essential.
workers,
Yeah.
but like second class, they weren't
And
hospital staff, and well, I guess they're first responders, but they weren't ambulance drivers and stuff like
they
that.
fed them, right?
Right?
They
All they
fed
did
them.
was provide the gas and feed everyone.
Yeah.
And I'm a little biased, of course, because that was my industry, but I always
Well,
thought,
I learned a lot about the industry, about your industry over the past 10 years. And it was a quick learn that there's so much opportunity and potential, right? To just have these deposits. I'm seeing a lot of people doing them well, these micro deposits to rebrand or officially just brand what the convenience industry looks like.
mhm. It
And
is going to be different. I'm telling you right now, like what you see today in 10 years, it's going to be very, very different.
oh, I'm seeing it. I mean, you're seeing it now,
Hmm.
right? Like you're seeing it now. I see very elevated, posh, if you will, convenience stores, right? Which is something you've never seen.
Yeah.
And then clearly with technology, I mean, we don't have to unpack that, but with technology, it's just it's part of the zeitgeist of what we do.
And coming out of COVID, what we're starting to see, like the Vrooms and the Door Dashes, you need these hubs, and you're starting to see convenience stores either build or retrofit their stores to accommodate pickup, much
Yeah,
like McDonald's and
yeah,
was there another chain? Starbucks. Starbucks does a,
sure.
a fantastic job with
Hmm.
with that pickup. So in my mind, that just makes the employees, the team, the frontline team that you do have more important
So
because
critical.
there'll be fewer of them and they will be the lifeline between you
Yeah,
and the brand.
critical.
All right. So takeaways, if you had to give some retailers some marching orders, and assume they're in charge of their HR, so they're gonna go talk to their HR people. What are a couple of tips you could tell them to
Be
focus
bold, be bold, be courageous,
on? Hmm.
right? Like, and it's okay to monetize goodwill, right? Like, so it's okay to do things. So be bold and be courageous is one when
Hmm.
it comes specifically to the HR of it, right? Like, don't be afraid to hire outside of what you're used to. And when I say that hire, I mean for your head of HR hire,
Hmm.
right? Expand that scope because that's going to be your A&R, your recruiter, right? That's going to be the sole decider of who becomes an ambassador for your brand, right? Who works the toll booth, right? So be bold, be courageous. Then I got into monetizing goodwill. Monetizing goodwill is, me saying, don't be afraid to lean into purpose branding as well. You are a beacon of the community, you serve the community, but what else can you do specifically for the community? And this is urban, rural, doesn't matter, right? What's your intentionality around curated experiences from parking lot entrance to parking lot exit, right? And how can we have these partnerships with universities? And how can we take a little bit of our budget and allocate it towards what our give back looks like through philanthropy, through community activation, through sponsorship, right? Like, how can we monetize goodwill? And all these things are deposits towards your brand being the brand that people choose, right? Another thing, too, is it's funny because I said sponsorship, it wasn't something I wanted to say from a takeaway, but have intentionality around giving it away,
Hmm.
right? Like, make sure you give it away. Lastly, is, you have to be beyond nimble and you have to be a learner.
Oh,
because this game is changing, not even daily, it's changing by the second, right? Like just from you work in an industry that's based on consumption, and we have never been bigger consumers as we are now, but we've also never seen turbulence at the same time the way we have. So we have this beautiful blend of the most innovative, like bestest version of a world. At the same time, the backdrop is one of the most turbulent, scary times, right? So how do you become a consistent a constant in that space and not being afraid of that. So we're talking be bold, be courageous, lean into your giving away, your purpose branding. Make sure that you understand you can monetize goodwill. And then I guess I would just close with your doors are open and you're appreciated and you're seen, but what else can you do, right? How can you challenge yourself? How can you make healthier decisions for for your business that also through the trickle down effect work for us, right? If you know if you have products or if you have a certain distributor who has less than stellar business practices, you don't have to work with them any longer, right? If you have, I believe neutrality is a value and lean into neutrality. But if someone is using their voice and you don't like it for whatever reason, you don't have to work with them. If you have the ability to give people that you serve healthy, fresh meals and healthier beverages, do that, right? Because a lot of times you're all they have, right? They don't have a restaurant. Or, and if they did, they made the choice to go there. So just understand all the power that you have and just continue to use it right.
there you go. While you were saying that, I was thinking about Major League Baseball.
Yeah,
Uh, um, the Mets, who I'm a
yeah.
Yankee fan, so it breaks my heart to give them credit for anything.
Okay.
They started a night where they celebrated a different group I think they do it in the summer. It's
Yeah.
subtle. But it hits at the kind of the heart of the matter what you're saying in that it recognizes different backgrounds, it celebrates them, it celebrates their culture, it introduces in some cases this culture to other people, the music, the food, etc.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's in a fun,
Yep.
non-threatening environment. And C stores should do they're trying.
And you can do it. Trying is critical,
Mhm.
right? That's it. You don't have to be an expert. Like the Mets, when they do these things, they have a little bit, they're only doing it, they have 80 times to do it, right? So of the 80, they have a truncated calendar. But you can have, I think something that you can do that's passive yet impactful is if you just have a calendar present and that calendar shows different heritage celebrations, right? You don't
Mhm.
have to, hey, on Cinco de Mayo, we don't have to have tacos, right? But you have a calendar that freaking says Cinco de Mayo,
Yeah. And
right?
that
Like
one's so overblown anyway. But yes, through food, right? Our industry could do it
that's
with food. Think about
that's
that, right?
it. Just a calendar. And the good thing about the calendar is, again, I try to find what are stabilizers, right? What are those things that no matter where you sit, you can have some form of I would just say buy-in or agreement in, right? A calendar that
Hmm.
comes from, let's just say, our federal government for the sake of, that acknowledges celebratory moments for different cultures and heritages is something that we as Americans, I don't say that often, something that we as Americans can get behind.
Hmm. That goes beyond, like I was saying, beyond Cinco de Mayo, St. Patrick's Day, and Columbus Day,
Yeah,
because those are like,
yeah,
that's it. There are so
right.
many more on the federal
How many
calendar.
more on the just use the federal
Yeah.
calendar and then you're able to hide behind it and say, oh, you're too progressive or you're too conservative. Listen, this is the federal calendar. We're just sharing it, right?
Great
Because
point.
when you think of it, a convenience store in some ways is almost like a federal institution.
A lot of people, a lot of backgrounds, a lot of
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
all
Well,
right, we are running out of time. I don't know if you saw the pop-up, but this is what happens when I start talking to you. We could be here for 2 hours, so we may
John, I'm ready for part two
I was
whenever
going to
you're ready.
say there's going to have to be a part two, but we got to get together for coffee. So I'll text you when we get
I would
offline.
love to. Thank you,
Uh,
John. I appreciate everything that you're doing. Phenomenal job.
Thank you, Jason.
All right,
So for
we'll talk
Jason,
soon.
thanks, Jason. I'm
Cheers.
John Lofstock. Thanks for joining us, everyone. We look forward to having you at a future NRS podcast.